So, what is the kind of impact that it has on children when they don't go through all of this for 18 years of their life?
So I want you to think about how our skills from there to now are so different. It is a day of AI. We are having so many jobs changing. We are having career paths that are coming up which weren't there before. So if you do not have the skills to be able to kind of manage with what tomorrow might hold, and also learning new skills at a certain age is very difficult. That a child below 6 is able to learn probably 5 languages, but the same thing if we have to learn 5 languages at 35 is so difficult.
How did you come up with the name Tapas?
So we had zeroed in on 2 names. One was Tapas and one was Kaleidoscope. We rolled it out to a lot of parents that we knew, and we asked them to choose the name that best resonated with them. 90% of the people chose Tapas. Learning is a tapasya, and therefore Tapas.
I'm hearing that experience is missing in children today. Is that what the message is? That they have the information, but they don't have the experience on how that information needs to be landed.
It is the skill that helps them use that information to create an experience.
Wow, that's lovely. Very nicely put. Welcome to yet another episode of the 1% Coaches podcast. The goal of this podcast is to bring you real, raw stories and conversations that lead to a change or impact in the society. My today's guest is someone who always felt being labeled as a student who would probably flunk, to someone who's actually teaching students life skills. From someone who had an experience that education is only led by rote learning. And when that same experience was felt in her own children was what drove her to come up with the idea of what she's doing today. Through this podcast today, I would love to highlight the change she's bringing in the society, that it needs to be a child-led education. Help me in introducing Nishanthi, who's the founder of Tapas, along with her 2 sisters. And today we will uncover the most crucial topic. What education system do we need in our country today? Welcome, Nishanthi, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here, Manmeet. It's a very exciting part to be here. And I think just listening to you say all of this seems surreal at this point of time, but it's a very interesting journey to be part of.
Absolutely. From the moment I have known you from that one WhatsApp group, I think I have always had the idea of sitting like this and having the conversation, and I think, if I may say, challenging what is normal in the society today. For example, I'd like to begin with how we are sitting and doing the podcast. This is not what the normal professional looks like. This is us who choose to be in our own comfort and do it the way we would want to, is what exactly you're building with your sisters, as to let the children be comfortable where they are. Don't push them into how the society wants to be. And I have always loved that idea, adored it. I am not a mother yet, but when I become one, I do not want them to go to the schools I went. I want them to go to a school like Tapas Education that you're building, where it is progress based learning, where it is children who are asked, what do you want to be and how do you want to be? So that's why, I take immense pride in the fact that I'm able to sit here and have this conversation with you, and thank you for building something that the society needs today.
That's very kind of you to say all of that, and thank you so much for having me here. I think what you said about being a part of the society, definitely there are multiple aspects that we need to look into, whether it's culture, how we carry ourselves, how we represent ourselves. There are multiple aspects to it, but I think sometimes we tend to kind of let that overshadow the way that we internally feel. if you go back to the old times, curly hair, for example, was so widely accepted. You saw Juhi Chawla, Madhuri Dixit with curly hair. And as the next generation came in, it was straight, flat, hair that was something that was accepted. And it became a norm where women with curly hair were not naturally looked at as someone who was beautiful. And today you see that kind of changing yet again, and people embracing that about themselves, which is a journey that I myself have gone through, which you can see. But that's just one aspect of where you accept yourself. I think we forget to understand ourselves, accept ourselves, and know how to be part of the society, which means that if you know yourself, you know where and how to be, how you have to be. Right?
Absolutely, and that is the curiosity you're building in the students, know yourself. Yes. I would like to, begin with your story, because the idea of the podcast is to own your story unapologetically.
Yes.
All that you're doing today is stemming from your experiences, your story, and that's how everybody who's doing a change or an impact in the society comes from their own experience.
Correct.
So let's begin with your story from the fact, how was your childhood? What did you experience when you were studying as a child?
I had a very happy childhood in terms of I played on the streets, I did a lot of running and jumping and playing. But when it came to school, I think I had a similar journey to everybody else, where it was you learn, you mug, you write your exam, and that decides whether you're smart, you're intellectual, you're great, amazing. Anything is decided on the marks that you get. As an individual today, I will tell you that I cannot rote learn for the love of God. So which obviously meant that the way that I would learn did not really suit me as an individual, because everybody learns in a different way. And which meant that I did terribly in most of my, subjects, especially math. I think my foundations itself were so bad that when it came to 10th, I had to have a home tutor, because my teachers were very worried that I would flunk my exam. So were my parents, because it got passed on. And that is a scar that I carry till today. Even if I'm doing some kind of calculation, you'll see me recheck that on a calculator. And that's unfortunate. And this is a very, very strong kind of an experience that I've faced, which meant that I had to believe that I'm not smart enough, I'm not intelligent, and it led to me having to prove that I'm good at what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And that's a very unhealthy thing to have about yourself, which meant that I had to go through a whole experience of learning who I am. Which goes back to the curly hair as well. But that is the schooling experience that stayed with me. And the more I spoke to people, the more I understand that many of them had the similar kind of journey. And I think when we saw that happening with our own children yet again is when we said, this is not the kind of journey that anybody should have with the process of learning. It's a very natural, beautiful journey that people should have with learning. And so Tapas is our COVID baby. From all of our experiences of learning, from my schooling and college experiences, from a school experience where I thought I might not pass, to having a decent score, to becoming a person who got distinction in her semesters in college. That is a journey that probably changed who I am. And that was a learning that I wouldn't forget, which led me to start my own firm in 2010, a firm called Fireflies, where I worked with schools, preschools. I worked with them creating programs based on life skills for their summer programs, after-school activities as part of their schooling. And that eventually led to Tapas. And this is where we are here today, which is a much bigger story.
Absolutely, and we'll unfold that story, one by one. I would like to go a little back in your story where you mentioned that, there were certain stigmas that you had built as a part of your learning and education. As you moved forward, you said that you explored yourself and you understood who you are. Before we go forward to how all of this unfolded into what you've built today, what was that you did to explore yourself to understand who you are? And where did that come from? Did somebody guide you? Did you take external help? How did you explore yourself?
I think it happened at different stages of life, and it all happened in smaller parts. I think we had a particular session in PU, which was about understanding your own self. That was the first bit. They gave us a piece of paper and pen, and they said, write 25 things that you love about yourself. It was really hard, to think of 25 things that was good about you. If that was so hard, it got me thinking about everything, from the way that I look, the way that I feel, the way that I talk, the way that I walk. And I think it started there. To one of my professors or lecturers in my graduation, he had a very interesting block one of the days. He said, brand yourself first. It was a marketing blog, and he was doing a case study with us where we were rebranding a particular product. So he said the first step to that is you assume that you are a product. How would you brand yourself? And I think that was the final block for me. That kind of probably sealed what started earlier. And so I had to rethink the way that I look at myself, and that brought it all together. But in between these two steps, there were a lot of, I had to redo everything, understand what is my style of learning, that I am, I love listening to somebody. I want to write it down so that I'll remember, and I will have to repeat it. All three have to go hand in hand for me to remember. So you will see me taking down notes. You will see me even to this day with a long list of to-do lists, even if after I've spoken about it. But all of these together, I think, brought me to where I am today.
Right. And thank you so much, first of all, for sharing all of that so openly. And I would want to know, after this experience of writing those 25 things about yourself, were you able to write 25 things about yourself?
Definitely not. I struggled. Like I said, I had to look at, oh, okay, maybe I have beautiful hands. Oh, do these fingers look okay? How do I, walk? And, I've heard people tell me that I have a nice voice, or maybe I have good eyes. But there's that constant doubt that's already there within you. So you're questioning, okay, maybe now that I have to fill this page, I'll put it down.
Right, right. And that is the journey of self exploration which began and led you to, be where you are.
Correct.
Having said that, you also mentioned that you started Fireflies in 2010. I would want to know that story, that how did you think of starting a firm like that, and how did the name Fireflies occur to you?
That's a very interesting question. So I interned and I worked with a few people. I was part of different industries. I had to kind of accumulate all the skills that I needed to become an entrepreneur first. And then I saw this niche space in the education industry where there were not many service providers at that point of time who provided something like this. So that is how the idea of Fireflies came into picture. And later I had to change it to Little Fireflies because I didn't get a trademark for the name. But that was an interesting journey that I had. And that was till COVID. That was a 10-year journey. And in the 10th year during COVID, I was going to franchise it as well. But that's when COVID happened and Tapas happened. So everything changed at that point of time.
So what I'll do is I'll go step by step to understand this journey of Little Fireflies as well, and how did it transition to Tapas and what happened there. So I'll take a step back and I'll ask, you mentioned that you had to go through series of learnings and series of understanding what entrepreneurship is supposed to be.
Yes.
Was that a gap or a lack you found out in your education system that you did not get, that you had to go, out for external help after your education, after your college, to learn how do I build this, what entrepreneurship is, and then think of anything that you want to do for yourself?
Absolutely. I think just understanding of how to use my own bank account. That happened after I had my first job. I was so scared to enter a bank because I didn't know who I had to talk to, what I had to do. The company had created an account for me and had given me a credit card, but I don't know how to use it. I mean, debit card. I don't know how to withdraw money. And I'm standing there and I'm looking all around, and I had to tell myself I got it and I'll ask for help. And that was just one thing. And being confident, presenting yourself, putting down your ideas, and representing a particular organization, dealing with finances, and so many other things are skills, values that you don't learn as part of your conventional education system. That's not something that I learned, which meant that if I had to be an entrepreneur, I need to know how to deal with people. I need to be able to deal with my finances. I need to be able to organize my material. I need to be able to represent my organization and talk to people about it, which meant my communication skills had to be better, and so much more. So I had to undergo different steps. I was part of different things, and that led me to finally say that, okay, I got this.
I would like to ask a question here that might sound, I don't know if I know the right word, but I'll still go ahead and ask the question, and you're free to answer as you would like to.
Sure.
Everybody may not become an entrepreneur. Every
Yes.
child may not become an entrepreneur. They would maybe, go through the normal life that everybody goes through. Do
Correct.
their education, get a job, keep working at the job, retire, and then do something that they're passionate about. Everyone may not go that route. Only 1% or 5% people would go there. So, is it that people who want to go an unconventional method need those life skills? Or is it that everybody who has to lead a life needs these skills?
I think it's absolutely everybody. See, as an entrepreneur, you might use these skills in a particular manner. But even if I am an employee of an organization, I need to know how to manage my finances. I need to know how to talk to, say, my manager, as well as how to work with an intern. I should be able to, deal with whatever material I have in a good manner. So I think this is in general for everybody. How you use these skills is dependent on where you are in your journey of life. But this is something that everybody requires. It's not something completely alien.
Absolutely. And what do you feel is the kind of impact that is, going on children right now who are not learning any life skills until the time they finish school? Maybe college teaches them a little with all the societies and the clubs and the debates that they become a part of. Maybe they get a little bit of a life skills there. But what is the kind of impact that children have today that they do not get? Even I did not go through. That's my story as well. I only learned life skills when I began to be a part of communities, events, organizations, NGOs. Is when I learned public speaking, when I learned how to present myself. So what is the kind of impact that it has on children when they don't go through all of this for 18 years of their life?
So I want to go back a little bit. If you look at our educational system, this was ideally created during the World War II. So at that point of time, the Britishers required people who would follow instruction, people who would be able to operate certain kind of machinery, and required those particular skills. And that is how our education system came into picture. And we are following it till today. So I want you to think about how our skills from there to now are so different. So the skills that they required then, if we are still using it now, they might not be, something that is equipping these children to deal with the society and the world around. It is a day of AI. We are having so many jobs changing. We are having career paths that are coming up which weren't there before. So, if you do not have the skills to be able to kind of manage with what tomorrow might hold, then that's just a very big challenge in life. If the only failure that children are facing is through academics, that I haven't scored this much, that is also a very big challenge. If you see today, one of the big challenges that most parents face is that children don't know how to deal with failure. And that is because of the abundance that they have. It is because we are constantly giving them. We've all come from a place where our parents have worked so hard, so we are all well settled, and therefore our children get the abundance. Whereas if you go back, our grandparents were the ones who were moving probably cities to get a better life, better job, and then our parents had to work hard to get to a place. So maybe we didn't come from that place. So all of these in turn affect the way that a child looks and interacts with the society. So, coming back to your original question about how the lack of these skills are going to affect these children, is simply that they're going to find it very hard to deal with the tomorrow's world. And also, learning new skills at a certain age is very difficult. Like, why is it that a child, below 6 is able to learn probably 5 languages, but the same thing, if we have to learn 5 languages at 35, is so difficult. You will have to do Duolingo like multiple days to be able to learn one language, which is the same for any skill.
I would like to, highlight a very important point which you just mentioned. It might look very small, but today, the kind of things that are changing in the society, from suicides, from giving up, and this is happening a lot in, if I may say, Gen Z, the younger generation today, where they're giving up too soon. They're chasing numbers, and we are losing lives today, is because of a very important fact that you highlighted, is because they cannot accept failure. Our parents and grandparents have seen the time where they have seen adverse times, and still they have fought through, because they knew how to be resilient in situations where you can fight through and come forward. Those are the life skills that they got. But today, with the comfort that we have from, everything available on the tip of our fingers, from sitting in an air conditioned room and having, meals that we can choose at the tip of our fingers, and most of the children have that privilege today because of the life that we have. Anything small that happens hurts children way too much, and then failure is something that they're not able to accept. So what may look very small as, what they're being taught in the school, can actually lead to a problem as serious as a suicide, is what I wanted to highlight. So that's a very important aspect that parents today need to choose, that where is your child going to, or what is the education system that you're choosing for your children, is what I would like to highlight.
100%. And I know we said we'll talk about Tapas a little later, but I'm jumping in. So today at Tapas, we have something called as the Astitva program, where we are talking about children understanding themselves, looking at reflection. We have a crew that they work with, where they are taking ownness to their own work, understanding that failure is just probably the first draft. It's okay to make that mistake and then take the next step. It is important for them to be able to learn to know that these things are okay, because if they don't become okay with the smaller failures now, or if we are protecting them from everything that can go wrong right now, the first failure or the first mistake that they'll have will probably be a really big one when they're much older. And that's very hard for anybody to deal with. Imagine, a person who's just graduated to have to deal with something like that. So these skills are what become important along with your academics. Like you said, it is a day and era of everything at the touch of your finger. I can say, hey Siri, what's the time? Or Alexa, tell me about this. But at the same time, it is not an age and era where only information is enough. Our our conventional educational learning was that we learnt what happened because that was the need of the hour at that point of time. Today, we have the information. It is important for children to know how to use this information. We had to have a phone book, for example, because we couldn't possibly know all of the numbers or remember all of it. But today we have it. But children need to know how to use a mobile phone to be able to use that.
I'm hearing that experience is missing in children today. Is that what the message is? That they have the information, but they don't have the experience on how that information needs to be landed.
It is the skill that helps them use that information to create an experience.
Wow, that's lovely. Very nicely put. And while we are talking about tapas, as we transition into understanding how was tapas built and how did all the ideas came through, I want to understand the transition from Little Fireflies to tapas. What happened that you closed down Little Fireflies, and what led to tapas? Primarily because you said tapas was a COVID baby, and I understand that building a school when everything else is shutting down is not a very wise decision to take. So I want to understand what led to that transition.
So I think since we were all part of the education industry and we truly looked at how there had to be a change that is required, and we tried to bring in this change in multiple ways, whether I did it through Little Fireflies or my sisters did it through other ways. The change was never big enough for us to be able to view it, experience it, see it. So we said if we wanted to see the change, we had to be the change. And we definitely wanted to create a bigger impact. And COVID, we chose that particular period because that is when parents sat with children for online classes and they suddenly realized that their children were doing the exact same thing that they did. They were learning the same things that they learned. And so everybody was open to the change that was probably bound to happen. And that is why we said now is the best time. If we don't do it now, we are going to put our dreams on hold for a longer period of time. So that's how COVID time had, that's how tapas came into picture during COVID.
How did you come up with the name tapas?
That's again a very interesting question. So we had zeroed in on two names. One was tapas and one was kaleidoscope, both of course with its meanings. And we rolled it out to a lot of parents that we knew and we asked them to choose the name that best resonated with them. And 90% of the people chose tapas. And it fit with what we wanted to believe with as well. For us, learning is a tapasya. You need to kind of have that rigor. You need to work hard to be able to have that kind of learning, and therefore tapas.
That's a lovely name. We were speaking to the guest outside and she said that tapas is fire, to have that fire in you to keep going. And as the name reflects on what you want to do, it always reflects in each of the activity and it shines. So it's a lovely name. As we talk about tapas, there's one of the things that I would like to highlight is because I've worked with you, Nishanthi, so I have seen that, what goes in building the ecosystem that you're doing at tapas. One of the conferences that we did together, I remember the children, small little children, introducing guests who were really good and big at their positions, looking at their names and the status they came from. If I were in that position, I would have felt, अरे इसने गलती कर दी तो, नाम गलत ले लिया तो, इंट्रोडक्शन गलत बोल दिया तो, अरे क्या होगा, मतलब कुछ गलती ना कर दे. मतलब when you're trying to invite high profile people to your events, you are super cautious and you keep everybody tight, that do not make a single mistake is how you operate. And in that space, I saw a conference being led and introduced by little children who were bound to make a mistake because they are small children, and you knew that a slip could happen, and yet children were leading it. So it is very core to what you say, that tapas is child led. I would want to understand your thought process behind the child led education that you're building.
I think this goes back to us saying that we need to understand ourselves, we need to believe in ourselves, which means that we need to believe in these children as well. I think we undermine the value of a child, we undermine how smart they are and how they're able to understand everything and they're able to take it forward in such a beautiful manner. And when we give them that kind of freedom with its own responsibilities, you will see that the onus that we are talking about for learning comes in beautifully. They're able to. So, when I'm telling them that this has to get done and this is who you're introducing, I don't have to sit with them and, go through the lines with them. They will take it upon themselves that this is important. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to, introduce them. But that also comes from a place of trust. They know that if there is a mistake, they're not going to be reprimanded. They know that we understand them, we know them. It's not by, it's not intentional. And that is the space that we are creating where it's okay to make mistakes, right? That acceptance needs to be there, because the same child next time is going to make sure that, I got this wrong last time, so I want to make sure I get it right this time. Maybe the second time that they say it, they will say it right because of that ownness that is there.
And because of the acceptance of failure, they're going to make it right, is because they know that there are no harsh consequences of that failure. Is because whenever a failure happens and there is a harsh consequence to it, it sits in your mind. So next time when you make that failure, you are fearful of the failure. You don't accept the failure. So because these children know that it's okay to make mistakes and I can fail, it is a part of the journey, they are open to make changes and try one more time to make it right. And I think that is the kind of values that you're inculcating in children. I would want to understand that, how does it work in comparison to a normal school? Does the bell ring at 9 a.m. and the first period starts? Do they have to wear a particular uniform to the school? Do they have to sit in, conventional tables and chairs? This is the kind of, schooling I did. Do they have a lunch break where they are supposed to get food from home? How does this school work?
So they have most of those. I will say that we do start at 8:45. They do have blocks of learning. They do have lunch break. They do a reading. They do writing. They do everything. So there is discipline. There is sports, but there's freedom within that boundary. So they don't have textbooks. They do explorations. They do experiments. They learn in a manner that they are genuinely curious. I was just sharing with one of the crew members earlier that one of our 7th grade projects now is it's a year-long project, and they're looking at can a human survive in Mars, for example? That is one of the questions that they're exploring, which means that they're going to look at everything from how does gravity work, how does, how does the solar system operate, how are the universes placed, how is a spaceship or a shuttle going to go from Earth to the moon or to Mars, and what does it require, the kind of fuel that is there, all of the learning components that is required for them to learn according to the textbook. They are going to be asking the question. When they ask the question, they're genuinely curious to learn. It's like me asking a parent, do you need to teach your child how to unlock your phone, open the app and play a game? Do you have to teach them? When they are interested, they'll figure it out. It's the same thing. We're working backwards. If they are interested to learn what is in a science textbook by themselves, you don't have to teach them. They will ask you the questions and you're only facilitating that journey. Okay, you want to know about solar system? This is how it works. Do you want to know how the universe operates? This is how it works. Why don't we try this? Why don't you read about this? Why don't we do this experiment to know more? So, only the way that we are teaching and the approach to learning is different. Everything else is like a regular school where there is discipline, where we do expect that we respect each other, we are kind to each other, and there are some boundaries that we need to draw, and they work within that. But they know that within that there is freedom.
What I'm hearing right now is that a conventional school would do the theory first and practical later. You flipped the game. You're doing the practical first and then letting the children choose to learn the theory, because if they've not done the practical, they might as well not be interested in the theory at all, because in a conventional school you're being taught the theory, which is, if I may say, pushed on you. You may or may not want to learn, but it's pushed on you. And then, because the theory is pushed on you, the practical is also pushed on you. You may not do it from your heart. But here, when they enjoy the practicality of a certain concept, the curiosity of learning the theory of it comes naturally. Here I am curious. Let's say you have a class of 20-25 children. Everybody might not be curious in the concept that you're teaching that particular class. How do you manage then? Is there differentiation in, these are the kind of 10 children who will learn the concept, 10 of them will go on to the next one because there are no textbooks?
So that's definitely very, very true in most scenarios, because in every space, not everybody is interested about space, or not everybody is interested in the particular topic, but they do understand that these are the learning objectives that they need to finish by the end of the year. Like I said, they're completely aware. These are the children who are setting rules for the space. They are understanding how the school operates. They know what they have to do. But even a facilitator is aware that what these particular children are interested in. So we do something called as home visits for every single child in the environment, where the facilitator visits every single child's home and understands what the child is interested in, who they are, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So even during the project planning phase, the facilitator is aware of what these children are interested in and what is going to be a driving force for them. It might be according to age. Maybe there's a project that we will do about anime because they're so interested in that, or it's connected to something that they're doing. If a child is not interested, we see that because every concept is introduced in multiple formats. One might be theory, one might be an experience, one might be a masterclass. So somewhere there is a hook for the child. It doesn't have to be in that one block where this is introduced. So they end up learning in some way or the other, but they're never left behind. Everybody is included in that whole project and they keep working on it.
Are the classes, in terms of the fact we had, in our schools, this is first standard, this is 1A, this is 1B, this is 1C, and this is 1D? Or is it that it is one standard and there are 50 students in one standard? We are teaching a concept, let's say solar system. Anyone who's interested can come to this class. Anybody who's interested in another concept can go to another class. So how does the differentiation of the classes work?
Honestly, logistically, that sounds very scary to me right now, but no, that's very difficult to manage that way. I think that happens more at a university level where you're able to pick and choose the learning. But here, according to the syllabus, the standards that have to be met, each grade looks at what all concepts the child need to know, whether it's in science, math, English, social studies, or global perspectives. All of those objectives are met through the projects that they're working on. We do have multi-age group classrooms where 2 grades are clubbed together, like say 1 and 2 are clubbed together, 3 and 4 are clubbed together, and so on and so forth. So all of the concepts that we are talking about is covered in that project. So it can be multiple projects in a year where we are doing 3 projects, or it can be a year-long project that we are doing.
Since tapas is so experiential in nature, do you have exams?
We do not have exams. in the literal sense that it is a summative assessments, but we do have formative assessments that keep happening through the year, wherein we are constantly looking at how a child is doing in terms of their academic knowledge, in terms of the values that we were talking about, the astitva that I was talking about. That is constantly being monitored, and but sometimes the children don't even know that it's happening. I love quoting this one particular example from one of the facilitators. So when she was introducing assessments to our 5th and 6th graders, because they were older to understand what assessments were, so she gave them an example of how when you go to a doctor, how does the doctor know where to help you, what to do? So they do some kind of tests, blood tests, maybe checkups, all of that. So those are the diagnostic checks. So she said, it's exactly that. For me to know how to help you, where you need help or where you're doing great, these are your diagnostic checks. So once you do this, I know how to help you. And then she does a one-on-one after that assessment with these learners. So the acceptance of what an assessment came in very beautifully to these children without fear. So today they'll come and tell you, oh yeah, ma'am told me I have a quiz tomorrow, which is so natural for them. They're not worried about it. And that is what we're looking at, taking away the fear of assessments, but that assessments are still happening. So I can tell you exactly where each child is in terms of their learning. And we prepare them for the 10th board exams in a planned manner. Like I said, probably from 1st to 5th, assessments are happening, but they don't know that they're assessments. 5th and 6th, they're a little bit more aware of it, and then it becomes a little bit more intense. They get into sitting tolerance, how much they're able to write, what they have to write, how they have to write with each grade. So the idea is to prep them with the required skills according to the age, knowing that this is the end goal. It's in a very gradual manner that they are introduced to it.
Right. So, one of my question is that if they're not being judged on, I may not be using the right word, but if they are not being assessed the right way of, how much marks they have, and that's how, we calculate when we look at schools. How do you know that they're ready to go to the next grade?
So, when I say they are assessed, we definitely look at if the child is learning in terms of their conceptual understanding, if the child has achieved a particular goal, if they're able to showcase that particular concept, if they're able to, teach another person on these concepts. So, there are certain terminologies that we have put together through which we are able to tell you where exactly the child's level is. So, when we were having this conversation, I had a facilitator who said, I don't think we should call it report cards. These are not criminals that we need to report them, which is so true, right? So we have something called as a learner ledger. It's a beautiful part of assessments that we've created, which is recorded, wherein it becomes a portfolio for a child when they want to apply for a university. So year on year it gets uploaded into that same learner ledger. So tomorrow if a child wants to showcase what they've done, how they've done, they're just able to remove that and give it, submit it to a university. So it has every facilitator's observations, anecdotes, how they've done in each subject, what went well, what didn't go well. They even have self-assessment as well as a peer assessment. So when you asked how do they know, this is how they know. So they know that they themselves are able to tell you, last year I was able to write this much, this year I'm able to write this much with this much less spelling mistakes. So they're able to map their own growth journey. So they're comparing themselves with themselves, not with another person. That is what even a mixed age group classroom does, where there's no level of comparison, because in a particular office also, everybody is at a different space. There's no way that you can say that me and him, oh, he's able to do that in 8 hours, I'm taking 10 hours to do this, or he's able to do that faster, or I'm taking more time. Everybody works differently and independently. The how you get to that end goal is important, and we're teaching children that they need to do that for themselves. That onus of learning, I'm going to come back to saying, that's on the children themselves.
That self awareness is very important as to who I am and where I am, to understand that they're very self aware of, how they're progressing forward. And I think when you mentioned about the comparison, the first thing that came to my mind was Sharma ji ka beta. So at least they are able to get out of the syndrome of Sharma ji ka beta
Yes.
and, look at their own parents and feel, acha, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm supposed to be. So, until now, what we've been discussing is very theoretical skills, if I may say, knowledge based skills.
Yes.
What about life skills? I have heard project based schools also have skills like washing clothes, cooking food, and other life skills that people need. How do you, is that a part of the curriculum as well?
Absolutely. So you might not see it as a specific skill being taught, but it is something that's woven into their everyday life. Like our children eat their lunch at school, they go rinse their plates. We have different clubs that take on different duties. So our green warriors stand there and make sure nobody is wasting enough food, because they know that we as a school believe in sustainability. It's something that is ingrained into them. So they will talk to you about how each rice grain takes X amount of days to grow, and therefore what they're wasting is quite a bit. When we are talking about leadership skills, you'll see that it comes into effect at different places when our children are conducting our events, because our events are completely child led. So, when a child takes on responsibility of organizing an entire event, is something else, because they're coordinating, they're looking at finances, they're looking at how many people are coming, what are the material that I need to put up, what is the timing that I need to do, how many dry runs should I have, what is the communication that should go to parents, and so many other things. So whatever life skills that you're looking at is all there in just one event planning that they do. So, apart from this, our children do so much more. They have entrepreneurial projects where they're creating products and they're selling it. Uh, One of our environments, again, they learned about plant and animal cells. So they created resin art coasters which looked like a plant cell or an animal cell. So not only are they using their learning to kind of solidify their learning, but it's also a beautiful piece that they're able to sell, and it has a story behind it. They learned about Indus Valley civilization and they wrote their own story based on that. Those were books that they were selling. So not only was there literary learning, but they were also looking at what a book should have. What is it that makes it something that I'm able to sell to a person? And so I can go on and on about the different kind of life skills that we need to have. When we spoke to when we did a survey with parents to understand what were the skills that they had to learn on the job, the top three things that stood out was financial literacy, second is your communication, third is confidence. So you will see that most of these skills get covered into our projects itself, because within projects there are teamworks that they do. They work individually, so they become a leader sometimes, they become a team player sometimes they have to work by themselves, and all of these skills come into picture then. And this is as young as a 6-year-old, or actually even 5-year-olds.
I'm just imagining a 5-year-old to have the confidence and the clarity of how to manage finances and, hold up a stage and say, welcome, so and so. What would that 5-year-old do when they become a 20-year-old? The kind of confidence that they would be filled with. And again, they would be in a position which is bring it on, whatever it takes, because they are so comfortable with failure for the last 20 years of their life that it does not matter to them that what happens right now. They're looking more future forward. So I'm just looking at what the world would be if 5-year-olds start to calculate that this is the money that we have, this is the one that needs to be saved, invested, spent. It would be another world, such a better place is what I'm thinking of.
So, our 5-year-old and 6-year-olds ran their own cafe for about a month in our school. So, every skill I spoke about was there. So, there was one particular cashier, when we're talking about finances, he could deal with only 50s and 100s. So, all of the items were priced in accordance to that. And you could see this 6-year-old sitting there and being able to calculate, saying, okay, you took 2 of these items, that means it's this much, and you need to give me that. Writing of a bill and signing it off and giving it to you. It was absolutely beautiful to witness something like that. And when I spoke about sustainability, our learners made sure even people who came to the cafe did not waste even the crust of the pizza that was given. They were not allowed to get up till the plates was clean. So these things become a part of who they are when they're taught in a way that it feels very natural to them. It's like saying, if I keep telling somebody that you shouldn't throw something out of the car window because it becomes dirty. But if you understand, let them know why they're doing what they're doing, and it is done out of their own interest and it's a habit, they're not going to do it whether you're there or not there. They're going to do it because that's what they believe in. It's not out of fear.
I think that is the most important message that I'm getting today, that children need to be led out of curiosity, experiences, and the most important is their own interest. Rather than pushing them on what is needed to be done, rather than pushing them what they are needed to be follows as their seniors, it is better that let them be interested in what they want to do.
Definitely. I think they need guidance. They don't need to be told what to be done. Uh, you're just flipping the coin of how you're doing it. That's the only difference.
That is so true. One thing that I have been constantly thinking about while we have been talking is that no matter what is the kind of message you want to put in the world, the change that you want to make, or the impact that you want to make, it requires an investment and it requires a return on investment, because at the end of the day, this is a business that you're running. Every business that has a purpose is successful, goes a long run, but at the end of the day, it's a business and it has numbers to count on. It's an investment and it's a return on investment. I have seen the campus, how beautiful it is, and the way you've built it around. But what is the kind of investment that took you to, bring such a change in the city of Bangalore?
That's a very, very valid point. I think today the kind of support that women get is wonderful. That's one. Second, educational institutions to get financial support is a little challenging, because it's considered a business. You need to show an X return of on the investment, which is challenging. If I can't have a school which will support 300 children, but till I get that 300 children I cannot get the loan.
Chicken egg situation.
So for us, luckily enough, we had something called as an investor meet, where we had our friends and family who attended, and we spoke from our heart. We were completely transparent and open about what our operations look like, what our investment looks like, and what is the return. So our first round of funding was completely through friends and family who truly believed in us, and that has led us to be here where we are. I think today we have our own parents supporting us in this journey, which is such a wonderful thing, because we truly see the community that Tapas has become, and that is something to be extremely excited about. We just finished our Prathamotsav, which is our parent orientation. And this year we have our first yellow big bus because till now we had the smaller wingers and other vehicles. So during the orientation, when I said, today we have the first yellow bus, we had the entire community cheering us on. And that's the community that we've built. And so I think investment also flows in through that belief and trust.
Right, right. It is always your inner circle people that support you first. Having led that conversation from investment to return on investment, I would also want to ask, what is the kind of school fees look like when somebody has to enroll in Tapas? If a parent is interested to enroll their children in Tapas, what does the fees look like?
So I think we have a separate fee structure for our early years and separate for our elementary and middle school and so on. So from 1 lakh to about 3 lakhs is the price bracket that you will look at, or the fee bracket that you will look at.
This is where we talked about investment in, building the infrastructure and then a return on investment. For the return on investment to work, there has to be a marketing as well. There has to be what we call customer acquisition. What is the go-to strategy that Tapas is following to be able to acquire children, or if I may not use the word acquire, but make people aware of such an institution or education medium exists that they can enroll their children into?
So it's funny you bring it up, because I think we've tried um, every tactic in the marketing book that is there from our first year, but I don't think anything worked for us in terms of creating that awareness like our own parent community. Today, 80% of the newer admissions that we've had, or newer children who've enrolled with us, are because of references from people that we've met, parents who visited us, and so on. No other marketing strategy has worked with us. Our parent community has been the strongest. I think today we've understood, even if it is a social media, it is only to ensure we are staying there, to just so that people know that we are there. So I think that has been our marketing strategy, which is just to keep our children happy.
That is the best strategy to be in.
Yeah.
What does the future of Tapas look like?
So, coming out of the first event of the year and the first week of school, I think it looks very exciting. It was purely happiness to see our numbers have doubled every single year from the year that we've begun. So, to see the same space filling with more and more people, the bigger the smiles we have. Even the questions that the newer parents had were answered by our old parents. I don't think we got a chance to answer them. So that community is truly giving us so much hope and belief in what we are doing. And right now, like I said, it's looking very exciting.
I'm sure, sky is the limit. I am very curious to also understand, since the institution is based out of Bangalore, does it mean that only people who would be located in Bangalore are the ones who can study at Tapas? Or is there a online version or an online medium as well for Tapas?
So that is definitely in the pipeline. We see how project based learning is something that is beneficial to multiple learners from different backgrounds. So it is in the pipeline that we will soon have a program that is virtually available to people across India.
Absolutely, I'll be waiting for that. As and when I would require it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nishanthi, for your time today and sharing so explicitly about, what you are building. If there is one message that you would like to give to all educators who are building such learning spaces, what would that be?
I think it's let's learn together, work together, because I don't think we have a lifetime to make our own mistakes. We have to learn from others' mistakes, collaborate, and give the best for every child under our care.
Thank you so much for your time today and sharing all the lovely nuggets that you did. And I'm sure that this piece of conversation will go a far way, and we will be able to spread that awareness amongst parents that project-based learning is what is needed today for our children to live fear-free in their younger lives.
Thank you so much for having me here, Manmeet. It has been such an interesting conversation that we've had, and I'm absolutely delighted that you had me here with you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. If you watch this podcast and you're someone like me who felt that I don't remember a word that I learned in my school, I don't know where those 90 marks came from when I gave my probably political science exam, then this podcast is for you to share it with people and spread the knowledge. We have lived a life where we have invested a big time in rote learning, and it's time we spread the awareness about how life skills are important as people are building their lives. If you liked the podcast, subscribe to the channel so that I can do my due diligence of bringing brilliant guests like Nishanthi to share the message with the world. Subscribe to the channel, share it with at least 5 people who will learn about how the children need to live fear free. Thank you so much once again for watching the podcast.